behind the scenes with Chase Russell. It's going to be fantastic. I'm very excited. We're going to be discussing two topics from radical shifts to real service, faith, freedom, and life after the military. Mark, we're going to go right in it.
You are now tuned in to Today with Pastor Jay on WNZF News Radio, where we discuss inspiring and informative news. And now here's your host, Pastor Geraldine Denny.
Good morning, good morning. Rise and shine. It's a brand new day, and you're tuned in to Today with Pastor Jay. I'm your host, Pastor Geraldine Denny, bringing you hope, faith, and real conversations to start your Sunday off right. So today we're talking about leadership, identity, and service, from the political shifts shaping our cities to the personal journeys of those who've served our nation. And my guest today, my highly esteemed guest, is Chase Russell, a 7-year Air Force veteran who's passionate about faith, freedom, and building strong communities here at home. So Chase, welcome to the show.
Hey, always good to be on. Thanks for having me back again.
So let's start with what's happening on the national stage and its ripple effect. New York's mayoral race has taken an interesting turn with Zohran Mamdani. Listen, I don't want to mess up people's names, but it is what it is, who identifies as a democratic socialist and proudly speaks from his background as an immigrant and a Muslim. His rise has drawn headlines and even reactions from celebrities like 50 Cent, who said, "Rest in peace, New York." Did you see the tombstone? I thought it was something interesting. So Chase, as someone who served this country and understands its core values, what do you make of this political shift in New York?
I think it's a testament to this generation and how it's almost an entitlement aspect to it. They want everything for free. They don't want to work for it. When you look at New York and how it's being ran, we've seen this come time and time again, where the democratic socialist, quote unquote, or socialism has not worked. And as somebody that's fought overseas for this country, to come back and see that happening in the greatest city on earth, a city that never sleeps, that's not a good thing. I don't think anything about it's a good thing. And I think over the next year, we're going to see the biggest shift in migration out of New York City.
Well, I hope they don't come to Florida, that's for sure. You know, I've been seeing maps all over where they've taken Florida and changed it to Georgia. So people will stop right there. You know, definitely don't New York out Florida. And as someone that was born in New York, I'm proud to be a Floridian. But what concerns you most about movements that openly promote socialism or radical progressiveness that's happening all over under the banner of equity?
Yeah, the issue we have right now is, like you said, people are they're gonna exodus out of New York City. They're gonna look for places with low business taxes, low taxes, and they're gonna relocate here to the great state of Florida. The issue we have is, don't bring your politics down here with it. You voted that in up there. You ran away from it. Don't come down here and try and do the same thing. What concerns me the most overall about this is the shift and the complete lack of accountability from the Democratic Party. You have seen people that, you've got the AOCs, you've got the Mamdanis, that they went as far left as they can possibly go at this point, besides being full-on communists, and the Democratic Party is completely silent on it. I think that's really what needs to be highlighted here, is the complete lack of accountability from the Democratic Party.
Do you think voters realize the long-term impact of electing leaders whose ideologies oppose free market and faith-based principles?
I think that people can be confused on what free means. If you look at the free buses, you look at free grocery stores. I don't think they understand what that means. This idea that you're going to tax the rich, you're going to get an exodus of businesses from there. And that's 48% of New York City's revenue right there is people that are in that top 1%, the billionaires and the millionaires. That's going to be gone. So now it boils down to the people that are making $200K, $300K, $400K a year. So then you don't even have the means to move out of New York City at that point, because you're going to be taxed so heavily. I think that's really, people are just missing the mark when they understand what free actually means.
Well, it may be free for someone else, but somebody has to pay for it, right?
Oh, it's always on the backs of taxpayers.
Always.
It will always come back on the backs of taxpayers.
You are definitely a man of faith. So how does a Christian discern politics when, oh my goodness, Mark, Can you boom? Thank you. So, how does a Christian discern when politics start conflicting with biblical truth? Because I know you're a Christian, and I'm seeing these things that's happening. In fact, I've been talking about the rise of Islam throughout the world. It's like 347 billion from 2010 to 2020, where Christianity was a little over 120 million. With that, Islam is just everywhere, especially in Europe. So, how does a Christian discern when these politics start conflicting with biblical truth?
As a Christian myself, I mean, the Bible's the truth. It's the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So at that point, I always go back to that. We're meant to be a light shining on a hill. We're supposed to be the city on the hill. There's not we can debate between Muslim. I spent a lot of time in Islamic countries, Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan. Some of the nicest people on earth. However, that's not the truth. That's not what we stand for. And as a Christian nation, we were founded on Christian principles. This idea that Sharia law could possibly come to the United States. You've seen Texas already outlaw it. I think we need to do the same thing here in Florida. Those principles don't mix with the cultural aspects here in America, and it needs to be combated, and it doesn't need to be celebrated. That's for sure.
You talked about young voters earlier. What kind of message you think this sends to the young voters and the veterans that's watching the nation move further away from its founding values? Do you believe that this generation that's rising up, this is something that they want?
I think you see, I think there's a big divide here. I think you see with the death of Charlie Kirk, there's been a huge push. Churches across the nation have seen record numbers over the past few months after the death of Charlie Kirk. And I think you've still got a fraction of the people who are, let's say, in the LGBTQ plus community. They're in this Free Palestine, Gays for Palestine, all of that stuff. But they don't even understand what it means. So again, it goes back to we can't even get definitions. You don't know the definition of free. You don't know what gender you are. Therefore, you're sitting here voting in somebody that doesn't know any of that stuff either. He's just telling you what you want to hear. But I think it's a big divide right now. There's people that understand that there is a biblical moral obligation to this nation, especially veterans. The majority of veterans statistically vote Republican and have conservative values. And then you've got a fraction of the young population who's been indoctrinated at universities, and they don't know left from right or what bathroom to use.
I mentioned earlier about 50 Cent publicly saying, "Rest in peace, New York." He even had a tombstone. What do you think that statement represents? Is it just frustration, or is this a deeper concern about the city's direction and the way that it's going?
I think most people see this as it's going to be the greatest live social experiment you could possibly see.
Wow.
You're going to see what democratic socialism really looks like in one of the greatest cities on earth, or was the greatest city on earth. And in my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to work out well. And I think 50 Cent agrees with that.
When you think about your faith, it's got to help us filter through these media narratives. There's so much that's going on that try to make socialism sound compassionate or even Christ-like. You know, I've seen a lot of that and heard a lot of that. How does our faith help us filter through those types of narratives?
So I think, that's a great lie. Socialism is biblical. That open borders are okay. There are boundaries. The Bible is very clear on this. There's boundaries set in the Bible. The Lord, Jesus talked about this multiple times in the Bible. I don't agree that giving people free handouts. I don't agree that stealing from the rich and giving to the poor is what Jesus intended for it. And again, I go back to every single time socialism is tried, it switches into communism, and then you get dictatorship, and that's never good for anybody. And I don't think Jesus intended that in any way possible.
Do you think America is facing a spiritual battle that's just really being disguised as a political one? Because we've seen all these ideologies and morals just out the window. People want to do what they want to do.
Yeah, I think people have, the whole point of communism with the manifesto is to bring heaven on earth, and that's just not possible. People they want this utopia, and it's in the manifesto, the Communist Manifesto. They want utopia on earth. That's not applicable. You get into some real Sodom and Gomorrah stuff when you start talking like that, and that's really where the issue lies here. Is it's my truth, it's my body, my choice, it's this, that, and the other. When in the reality of it, that's not the case. You're the Lord's body. That's His soul, and you owe your life to Him. And not to get too preachy here, sorry,
Go
Pastor
ahead.
Jay, not to
No,
get too
look, go
preachy
ahead on
here,
and get preachy.
but at the same time, I'm a Christian man. I got to speak biblical truth on this, and that's just not the case. And people are going to have to face a judgment day at some point, and they're going to have to understand that the decision that they made were not for them. It's not their truth. It's the Lord's truth, and that's the way it is.
Do you see a parallel of what's happening in America today, to where socialism took hold of other countries and slowly restricted faith? I mean, just not that long ago, when President Trump was, um, my mind just went blank. Okay, hold on. Do you see a parallel between what's happening in America and other countries that where socialism took hold? When I think about when President Trump was sworn in, he talked about we're not going to forget our God. He's been openly declaring that Jesus is Lord. But socialism in other countries have been restricting our faith. Do you think we're on a path of that now?
Yeah, so socialism and religion cannot coexist. It just doesn't happen because the government now becomes the religion, and if you can't serve two masters. You can see it with Mondami. We went from Ronald Reagan saying, hey, government's the problem, not the answer, to now Mondami's like, government's 100% the answer, and there's no such thing. There's no other answer. And that's why we get the free grocery stores. We're going to provide all that for you. No, so I don't. I think there is a direct correlation between socialism and then its move into communism and the deterioration of your religious freedom, not only your religious freedom, your right to bear arms, your right of free speech, because, again, all of those things allow you to be in control, but now the government wants to have that in their hand and in their pocket. So they could say when you have free buses and free grocery stores, they control when you eat, they control where you go, and that's what's happening right now.
I look at the nation today and everyone's upset. You know, SNAP benefits have been cut off, but the government was never intended to take care of the people. The church was supposed to take care of the people. So how do you encourage people today, to give to believers? What kind of encouragement when they feel discouraged about where our culture is headed?
I say pray. I mean, God's always got a plan. There's not ever a time in this history of the world that God hasn't had a plan. Everything happens for a very specific reason. Does it seem dark right now? Absolutely. But at the same time, you need to get with community. You need to be in community. And that's why you see such a rise in the church over the past few months, is people are realizing, hey, I can't do this on my own. I need community. I need Jesus. I need a group of core believers that are going to push me in the right direction, that are going to give me godly wisdom. And I think they should lean into that over the coming months, over the coming years. And as we go throughout this, you're not going to see a decline in this rhetoric that's happening in New York City. You're only going to see that increase. And what needs to happen is people that have a biblical faith and a biblical foundation need to step up. They need to rise up, and they need to get into politics. This idea that people are Christians are not supposed to be in politics is just not real. That's not a realistic thing. So they should get involved. They should be a part of their school boards. They should be a part of their city council, their commission, run for state representative, and they need to bring that Christian and biblical value to those state houses, that city council, and that school board.
All right. Well, today's episode of Today with Pastor Jay is brought to you by Gray Eagle Strategies, Geraldine Ministries, Church on the Rock, and Judah One Aviation. Hey, family, don't forget to catch every past episode of Today with Pastor Jay on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Make sure you follow and share. Let's keep faith and truth in the conversation. We'll be right back. I guessed. Did I do good? Okay. All right. We can go right back in. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now, Chase, let's shift gears and talk about something close to both our hearts. Life after service. You served 7 years in the Air Force, and that's a tremendous commitment. And as we celebrate veterans, with Veteran Day being on Tuesday, let's talk about how that transition really feels. What was the biggest challenge for you when you were leaving the military and adjusting to civilian life?
Getting sleep. In the military, you never sleep. To be honest with you, that was the hardest thing. But in all seriousness, I think people coming back from the military, coming out of the military, reintegrating back into the communities, I think that's a fantastic thing. The state of Florida is fantastic on helping veterans really get involved, get jobs. There's a lot of programs. There's a lot of nonprofits throughout the state. So, as a veteran that's came back to his home state of Florida, get involved. whether it's in politics or whether it's in your community, definitely getting involved is going to make that transition a bit easier.
How does your faith help you and guide you through your transition?
I have an amazing church. I have an amazing community. I have an amazing family. It's a Christ-centered family. So having that Christ-centered balance in my life is really what's helped me through the dark times. Because coming out, it's not going to be all sunshines and rainbows. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have to adjust to things, and having a very good focal point to always rely back on is really the key to it.
Civilians often have these misconceptions about veterans and the life they lead after service. Can you think of any misconceptions that you've had to deal with yourself?
Yeah, getting out's going to be easy. I thought once I get out, everything's going to be hunky-dory, and it's just not. You have a lot more freedom. You have to control yourself a little bit differently. And you have to, especially if you're a young veteran getting out, you have to learn how to basically do life without somebody telling you where to be all the time. So that's a
And
huge
what to wear.
misconception.
We were so used to everything
What to
being
wear.
issued to us, right? We want you to have a family, we'll
I,
issue it to you. You know, you do kind of
I
get
said
that
this the other day.
mindset.
That's the best part about being in the military. I never had to wake up and be like, what suit am I going to wear today? Or what shirt am I going to wear today? It was just the same outfit every single day.
I've got to ask, my husband accuses me every now and then and tell me, stop being so militant. And he'll call me drill sergeant or whatever, because it doesn't matter how long you've been out. There's certain things that are just in you. It's like
Yep.
memory reflex, a muscle reflex. You're going to have it forever. And I truly believe that. Do you get that in your home?
All the time. Yeah, I've got 3 kids. I got 3 kids. You've seen my kids. You've been around, or at least been on the phone with me talking with them.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've heard
there's a
you
lot of
talking
times
to
that
them. I
comes out.
chuckle because it sounds like something I would be saying to my children.
Hey, there's a set discipline in my house, and I run it the way I run it. But at the end of the day, there's always love, and again, come back to those Christian values, and it is difficult to transition out and get the vocabulary out of your words and useful language, especially if you move into corporate world. So that is difficult, yeah.
How does honoring veterans look? What does it look like beyond just a holiday? What can churches and communities actually do to help in honoring veterans?
I think that there needs to be a hyper focus on mental health for veterans, especially right now. Getting out again, like we were talking about, it's kind of it's a wonky world. It's kind of crazy out there. So getting out and having so much structure and then going into the craziness of it, I think we need to really be focused in on the mental health aspect for veterans right now, really supporting programs that help with mental health and suicide awareness. I think that's the number one thing the veteran community needs right now.
Yeah, veterans do struggle with a lot. How can you encourage a veteran right now that may be struggling to find purpose again, maybe struggling with mental health? Have you had to reach out yourself to mental health services through VA? I believe every veteran has one time or another, but what kind of encouragement can we give to a veteran that may be struggling to finding that purpose?
I think that first off, if you're struggling and you think that you're not supposed to be here, there's no purpose for you in life, absolutely, there's 100% a purpose for you in life. Find help. Get with a friend. Call somebody. Call the VA. Call the help hotline. There's tons of nonprofits around that are really always looking to help or always looking to talk, but just talk with somebody. Find a good friend that you can confide in. Have that conversation. And if you're not, and this again, I'm not going to get too preachy, but if you're not in a church, go get into a church. Go get planted into a God-filled, Spirit-filled church, and really seek that community, because that's really what's going to make that transition 100 times easier.
Do you find yourself still doing military cadences with your children? My daughter sent me one the other day. Don't laugh. She sent me one the other day. She said, Mom, I thought this was just a jacked up lullaby. I didn't really know it was a cadence.
No, what's crazy about this, I had this conversation with my wife. Most lullabies were actually military cadences, and that's how because not to get crazy, but when the French came up with the cadences, they couldn't read, so they had to come up with lullabies. So that's what's funny about that.
I'm going to tell her that.
I find myself all the time saying certain things that I said in the military to my kids, and they have no idea what I'm even talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I find myself using that quite a bit.
What do you miss most about your military life when you transitioned out?
I always say it was the most fun that I never want to have again.
Okay, I can get that.
with that being said, I got to travel to some cool places. I got to do some cool things with some great people. I miss the people the most. I miss the guys I worked with, the guys I was in Afghanistan with. Most of us talk regularly still. And I think that camaraderie aspect's really what most veterans miss overall. And that's why it's super important to get in that community and build the camaraderie. And it might not be the same. It might not be, hey, we've been shot at before, so we've got that bond or that trauma bond. But at the same time, at least there's community, there's people you can talk with or reach out to.
What part of your service you believe shaped your character the most?
I was very fortunate to have I had some very amazing leaders that always mentored me coming up through the ranks. Very fortunate for the leadership that they've given me and the tactics and everything they've given me. And I think that's the number one thing mostly that I'm so thankful for is just having that structure and that leadership
That
capability
discipline.
now.
Yeah.
The
I think the
discipline, the
discipline.
work ethic,
Mm-hmm.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. You and I have worked on some projects in the past, and you and I will be up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't even matter. And everyone else have tapped out 5 hours earlier. And you and I trying to figure out what's wrong with them. Well, where they at? They're sleeping. We don't sleep. So I think that's
Hey, 1, 2 a.m. That's the best ideas right there. 1, 2 a.m.
absolutely. And most people don't know that. I don't surround myself with a lot of people that don't have that mindset because they think you're crazy. Do you have a challenge with getting people to understand our psyche? Because we have such a drive. Most veterans have a drive, a work ethic, and they're going to get it done no matter what, you know, late hours at night, early hours in the morning, lack of sleep, it doesn't matter. Everything to us is mission oriented, even our work.
Yeah. Having employees and stuff like that, I think there's a good balance between my work ethic and probably a normal person's work ethic. But you can see in life, the people that have Elon Musk, for instance, if you have an insane amount of work ethic and you put in those hours, you're going to be very successful. And that's something I try and drag my employees or my team into and say, hey, if we work this hard, we're going to have great results. And seeing the vision afterwards or seeing what's happened because we put in that time is always an enlightening thing for them. And then they also want to work harder. So I think having my work ethic, it inspires other people to come in and have the same work ethic. And then when you work with other veterans like yourself, it's always nice to have that camaraderie and have that understanding like, hey, this is just the standard of how we work.
It is, and it's a great understanding. Do you believe, when you look at America, when the people came back from Vietnam, when the soldiers came back from Vietnam, they were not greeted at all with a good welcome. Do you think America does enough today to celebrate the life of veterans?
I have an skewed perception of this because when I came home from Afghanistan, I felt so welcome. I was so happy to be back in America. I felt that people cared about my service. Even to this day, when people find out, oh, you were in the military, thanks so much for your service. I think that now we've come to an understanding that, like, hey, people sacrifice a lot.
Right.
Back then, I really do feel for that Vietnam veteran community because they still, and even to this day, they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And it's like, no. And when I shake a veteran's hand from Vietnam era, I say, hey, I genuinely am I know what you've been through. Thank you so much for that. And I think really going back and fixing that part of our past, or at least acknowledging that that was a negative aspect, is really a great thing.
What legacy would you like to leave as a man of faith who served his country and served his community? What type of legacy would you like to leave?
I want to make sure that my kids know that their dad loved them.
Mm-hmm.
That no matter what, I always live for Christ. That I live for a purpose, and that no matter what, their dad loved their mom. That I love them, and that I would do anything for them. And if at the end of the day that's all they remember about me, I'm fine with that one.
Oh, absolutely. And you have a great love for your country. So thank you,
Yep.
Chase. Thank you for sharing your insight, both as a veteran and as a man of conviction. Your story reminds us that freedom isn't free and that standing firm in faith matters, whether in uniform or in everyday life. So I'll leave you this, guys. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not promised. What are you going to do today? Today, you're going to thank a veteran, not just for their service, but for their life. Until next time, I'm Pastor Jay, and this has been Today with Pastor Jay on WNZF News Radio. All right, so I'm going to, this is Sunday's thing. Can you send it? You send this to Mark at Flagler Broadcasting, Chase, because
Can
he's.
I send? I'm not in the admin account anymore.
I know, but one, I'm gonna hang up, and then I guess you'll go in the admin account and download it and email it to Mark, or put it in a drive or something, because he doesn't have it for Sunday.
Is the audio going to be on the video recording, Mark?
Yeah, it should. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah, I'll go in and download it and send it over to Mark.
Okay. All right. Thank you.